from the same area, I'm presuming?
Except for me.
Okay, yes, you
You know
too.
me.
Yes, I know you too. Cool. Welcome.
Hey, Dave. I have 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you. Good evening. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during citizens' participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, nor will it tolerate comments made outside of citizens' participation portion of the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments are summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. If we kindly take a moment and silence any electronic devices, including your cell phones. Everybody's present. Ryan Morris is excused. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you have anything under notices and communications? Yep. Board, just for the record, under notice and communications, I'm passing along a card we received from a retiree. You may take a look at that if you wish. That brings us to citizens' participation. Mike? One other announcement for housekeeping orders. Just prior to the start of our meeting, the board held executive session. That was for fact-finding. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So we do have a few citizens' participation this evening, so we'll go ahead and get started with Mr. Pat Furlow.
Welcome back.
Good evening. I'm Pat Furlow, a resident of Adams County, and I've been to the past 2 board meetings to voice concerns and ask questions. And as I was informed to me, you do not answer questions. You direct us to where we might be able to find answers, yet the Office of Open Records, under the Sunshine Law, suggests that asking and receiving answers to a question is, as they say, good practice. When I asked about the tiered tax system, I did receive a response back from the school superintendent rejecting the idea. In reference to the ACT question, I received no response back from the email that you provided me. Yet, 2 members of your board sit on the Joint Operating Committee regulating the ACT and could have possibly been able to give responses at that meeting. Maybe answering some questions would help us get an accurate information rather than inaccurate and outdated information through multiple sources. The Gettysburg school system pays its teachers on average 64% higher than the national average and has a teacher-to-student ratio of 12-to-1, almost half of the surrounding state school averages. You have schools that are not filled to capacity, yet rather than consolidating classrooms, schools, teachers, you spend millions on renovating schools that are under capacity. The Pennsylvania House and the governor are tired of school districts raising taxes on the public excessively. There is a bill, number 2370, being worked through the Senate at the moment for the next state budget that will create an equity tax fund of $1.5 billion available to school districts who lower the property tax, but not to districts who do not. The Amblebrook community I live in gave this school year $2 million to the school system, with more than double that to follow next year. And that is just one community. You're direct, yet you need to raise the, pardon me, in one of the communities that you're in your tax term. We appreciate the board spending more time exploring ways to cut spending rather than milking the cash cow 55-plus community of their hard-earned retirement income. If the board is having trouble finding ways to cut spending, maybe a new board would have better luck. Thank you for your time.
So, Mr. Furlow, thank you for your comments. And as Mr. President Hassinger said at previous meetings, we typically don't do a back and forth during public participation, public comment, but I would be remiss to address some of your comments. I'm starting my second term as a school director. I'm starting my 5th year. Over the past 7 years, this district has raised our property taxes 0.7%, Dr. Perrin? On average, 0.7%. Since I've been part of this board, even through COVID and some of the worst inflation of our lifetimes, we've cut millions of dollars from our budget, millions, without impacting student programs. We have been very fiscally responsible. This administration has been very fiscally responsible. And with the proposed tax increase that we're talking about to fund the ACTI, just like anyone who is preparing and planning for retirement, to put an addition on their house, to put their kids through college, you look at what is required for the future to adjust your budget and make that investment. And the ACTI and the trades is something that this county and this district is committed to funding. And I disagree with some of the sentiment that we're just milking cash cows and arbitrarily raising taxes and not being responsible with our expenses. I'm not sure how long you've lived in the district, but we have worked very hard over the past 5 years that I've been on this board to curb our tax increases and manage inflation and skyrocketing costs. And we've done things such as renegotiate existing contracts for transportation, fuel consumption. We've done a lot of creative things to cut millions of dollars out of the budget. We've done capital improvement programs where we've budgeted for $24 million and come in at $17 or $19 million, saving millions of dollars on projects through good planning and good administration. So I just wanted to share some of that for some of you in the audience that may not have lived in the district for very long or haven't taken the time to come back through meeting minutes or newspaper articles. So I just wanted to share that for what it was worth. And thank you. Our next participant is Maria Glass.
Good evening. My name is Maria Glass, as they just said. I have lived in Gettysburg for 3 whole years now, and I am the product of a public school system from the state of Florida. However, professionally, I'm a retired Catholic school principal with 34 years of experience. I come to you this evening without a political agenda, just some concerns pertaining to the school tax increase that you will take your final vote on tonight. I do not think you should approve. To prepare for this evening, I spent quite a bit of time trying to uncover clear facts pertaining to the GASD. I want you to know how difficult this task was. As a school board, clear and transparent communication is crucial. Perhaps providing more links for the GASD would be beneficial. It would also be helpful to parents as well as all other stakeholders to be able to find standardized test scores, for example, on each of the school's websites. From the National Center of Education Statistics and your website, I learned that the student-to-teacher ratio is 13-1. Again, that might not be current. It might be 12-1, it may be 14-1. But again, that was the best information I could find. I also learned that the total revenue per student is either $22,000 or $23,146, depending on the source. Pennsylvania apparently ranks 7th highest in the nation for per student spending. So I wonder, is it really necessary to increase our taxes? Let's look at the student-to-teacher ratio. I looked at the Pennsylvania Department of Education and found Title 22 Pennsylvania Code 405.43, which indicated that class size should be limited to 20 students with at least 1 teacher and 1 aide. It further stated that, quote, high-quality programming suggests a limit of 17 students. This would mean to me that you can clearly shuffle around some students to reach the 17 high-quality student number, saving on some salaries and benefit costs. I'm very pro-teacher. I'm obviously very pro-administration, but sometimes you have to tighten your belt just a little bit. Some have suggested that one of the 3 elementary schools be closed as a cost-saving measure. But if you look at the Department of Education's enrollment projections, you will see from the enrollment numbers of this completed school year to 2032-2033 school year, which is 6 years from now, it is projected that grades K through 7 will increase by another 260 students. However, it is projected that we will see a decrease in enrollment from 8th through 12th grade. It also appears that the GASD has a reserve of roughly $20-something million, again, depending on where you find your sources. Considering the new communities being built, the Lakes, Amblebrook, and the new homes that are to be built by Giant, your revenue should only increase currently and in the years to come. Maybe you could all consider the 55-plus communities that only put money into the system and take no services out. Give some thought to larger exemptions. In Florida, homeowners could receive up to $50,000 exemption off the assessed property value. Something to consider. With the grace of God, you'll all be there one day. In reference to the ACTI, the Adams County Technical Institute, I understand this institute will be attended by students in 4 other districts, I believe, or 5. I'm not sure of that one. But are they providing any funds to build this new facility? Are they also chipping in the $15 million? I don't know the answer to that, and maybe I have to email someone to find the answer to that. But I hope the answer to that question is yes, as 7 of you voted for the $15 million renovation. In conclusion, please consider voting no increase to the school taxes, adding more students to each class to reach the ideal of 17-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, thus saving salaries and benefits. And thirdly, providing more transparency to all stakeholders on the internet. Thank you very much.
One quick comment.
Certainly.
You packed a lot in there, but the one thing that did stick out is, yes, there are 5 districts, which include us. All 5 districts have a stakeholder financial obligation into ACTI.
Does it equal the $15 million that we're putting in?
Jason, it would
Do we
be
know
it's
that?
proportion to on the number of students from each district that would actually attend ACTI. So one district may have a set number, we may have a different set number than them, which would change that on a financial end.
So that could be more or less, 15 million?
Yeah, we're generally not the largest, and we're generally not the smallest. So we're in the middle of the group of 5.
That's going to be a tremendous facility, I imagine. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Glass. Our next participant will be Leroy Williams.
Hello, I'm Leroy Williamson. You might not be able to read my scrawl. That's a Texas scrawl and a Texas drawl you're going to hear. I appreciate that y'all have been here many years, many of you, and have been doing fine without our input. I would hope that any input we provide will be beneficial to you. I don't know that anyone's coming here with an axe to grind. We're here just to reason with you. I don't have a background in education other than I received a good one. And I was a banker by trade, and so I look at numbers. And I agree with Ms. Glass that it's very difficult to find some of those numbers. But one of the things from what I could see is that about $47, $48, $49 million comes from taxpayers here. So if we're going to increase that 1%, it's not really a lot of money. It's almost a de minimis amount. But when you put those de minimis amounts on there long enough, they become a major amount. When I look at the numbers that I could find, and I look at what we can project just from the community that I live in, which is that name that you're tired of hearing, Amblebrook, that we will probably provide enough additional revenues just in the houses being bought to take care of that 1% bought and put on the tax rolls, the 1% that you're looking for. So because of that understanding, if in fact it's correct, I would encourage you not to vote to increase taxes. I don't think it's needed. I'm not sure it can be justified either, although when you use those kind of words, some people get insulted. But in my opinion, it's not a justified tax increase. You have plenty of surpluses. I understand where you're trying to keep the surplus in around 6%. Your new budget in 2024-25 says you're going to be just about there. What I don't know by looking at this is whether or not some of those costs are in that $49 million. Is the 1% already projected in there?
The 1% tax increase for 24-25 would be projected as a local revenue.
Okay, is it already projected in these numbers? Okay. Well, you'd be a little bit below the 6% you want, but it looks to me like you would have sufficient new revenues coming in that you can't truly justify that increase. And I would encourage you each to take a different look at it. And depending on the tax revenues coming in, forecasting that, I think you can see you don't really need that money this year. Even though I say it may be a de minimis amount for most of us here in Amblebrook, it won't be for a lot of people in your community. I encourage you not just to think of Amblebrook, you know, who you might think's a pain, but think about the community at large. And again, I'll say it, don't believe it's justifiable. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Kevin McDonald.
I spent a number of years on school boards, including getting bonds passed to get needed new schools. So I sympathize with your position, and I am inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt. I haven't been here long enough to know your history or to do the research in the facts that the previous two speakers did. So I'm just going to ask that you look at the budget with a lot of care, with the idea that, you know, the first solution to a financial issue is not to raise taxes, but to see if there's a way you can be more efficient. So I think at this point I would defer any kind of strong comment until I know more about the situation, but I would just want maybe to get a couple of answers regarding the efficiency measures that you look at as school board members to make decisions about whether or not you are operating efficiently. We've heard some numbers about class size, teacher salaries, and I imagine those are things you look at when you make your decisions. I imagine test scores are things you look at when you make your decisions, but I guess when I sit down, I would appreciate hearing from you a little bit about how you make those kind of judgments.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mr. Michael Brandt.
Good evening. I'm not going to ask you about the budget, but I do appreciate Mike Dickerson saying something about the importance of looking to the future. In that regard, I remember, I think it was last fall, the board authorized an update to the 10-year demographic study done by the Stuman Group. And a few months ago, I asked about when we'd expect to see that. Kenny referred to Dr. Perrin, and I believe the answer was, it was sometime in the spring. I believe it was April. I've sent an email to both of you asking, where is it? When will we be able to see it? And haven't gotten it. So haven't gotten an answer, so I'm asking tonight, what's the update?
It's, what you got? I got, it's, it'll probably be delayed at least 8 weeks due to health.
So
the person who was conducting that had a health issue, so it got
okay.
so it got delayed. And if you recall, over the months, some things are out of our control, and it was
Yeah.
this board here that hired a new auditor because we weren't getting our audits in a timely manner.
Yeah.
That gave the board the ability to intellectually look at it, at the budget from an audit perspective. So we took that action to change that.
Yeah. So about, if I'm hearing you correctly, about 2 months, you expect the update to
The last update we received from the vendor, Dr. Stuman from Carnegie Mellon, he said about 8 weeks from when we were supposed to originally receive it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, well, if that was April, we're about there now.
I don't think he provided the update in April. I think he provided the update closer to June. So I'm hoping for late summer at this point.
Okay. Will you be posting it on the internet when it's available?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So our last speaker this evening is Mr. Richard Schultz.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Schultz. I talk funny because I have health issues. I'm an old resident. I live in Amberbrook. And I'm here to find out things because you hear a lot of information and you don't know what's true or what's false. I do know that I have to live on a budget, just like you proposed for the school board. And you know what? If I don't have that money in my pocket or my revenue coming in, I have to do without, or I have to consolidate. And I don't know too much about you. I don't know if you're elected, if you're appointed, or what your position is. I'm not here to anger any of you, but you know what? I have a bad trait for calling a spade a spade. And if I think that somebody's trying to get over on me, oh boy, we're in for a rough night. Luckily, this evening, I don't know enough. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to get information. I'm here to get clarification. For example, I heard that 1% increase. Well, what does that translate to in dollars to my monthly little bucket that I put my monthly payment in to pay my taxes? Is it $50? Is it going to be an additional $100? I don't know, and that's why I'm here. And I would ask you, being representatives, to give me those answers. I supplied my name, address, and phone number as required. I don't want to get a demerit for speaking out, and I don't want to do any extra school time. I've done my time, I've done my schooling. I just want clear, precise information, and I want to save my money. You know, if you had to pay Medicare and medicines and doctors, even though you have the best health insurance possible, you still pay. And I think a lot of people in Amberbrook, because of their conditions and age and stuff, can't afford it. You're taking money out of their pocket, food off their table, believe it or not. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. And sometimes I do think Amberbrook, let's see, 500 new homes, the least amount of taxes that I ever heard anybody, I've been here 8 months now, is like $3,000. If that's true, that's 1.5 million, I think. Where's that money going? You're already running the surplus. When I bought here, I moved up from Maryland, and the developer and the state was very clear. They gave you a brochure. Pennsylvania is good for the retiree. We don't tax your pension. We don't tax this. We don't tax that. But you know what they didn't say? Watch your backside for the school taxes. Unfortunately, I hope that's not true. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to some kind of constructive, truthful comments and a dollar figure what that 1% means. Thank you.
If I can take 1 second, because there's one or two things I can address, and we normally don't do this, but they're simple questions that you asked that I can address, and some may be addressed later on. The board did bring this out, and I would encourage you to go back, and if you need the link, I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting, and you can watch multiple hearings or board meetings where we publicly displayed all of the factors that went into the budget process, and it outlined what the percentage of tax would be based upon what your home is assessed. So the county assesses your home, and then your base salary, or I'm sorry, your base pay comes off of whatever your home is assessed. So some homes that are assessed, let's say, at under 300, actually, there it is right there, sir. There's your figure.
That's the question, the answer to your question.
So these are easy questions. And you can watch, if you go back and you watch that on YouTube, the Gettysburg Area School District meetings, for the last probably five meetings, you'll be able to see the entire budget outline, including all the expenditures, all the revenue sources, all the earned income tax, or the tax coming in for property, et cetera.
Well, I appreciate that, but when you're here only 6 or 7 months, it wasn't on my mind to worry about the school board. I'm worrying about getting my cars registered, inspections, meeting the neighbors, meeting the neighborhood, visiting my local establishments.
Right.
And
And we're sympathetic to that, and that's why I'm taking the time to some of these questions. And
I appreciate it.
And the board did, if you go back probably about 2 years ago, the board that sits here today took the budget very seriously, and we were the first district or board that passed a budget resolution where we said within a 5-year period, give or take a window, that we were going to have spending and revenue at zero, so they zero out. So we're not looking to spend, and that's where Mr. Dickerson was talking about the millions of dollars that were cut over the last several years in anticipation of trying to get to that bottom line zero, like one of the gentlemen said. If you don't have the money, you don't, oh, you did. If you don't have the money, you don't spend it. Well, that's what we were trying to get to, and we couldn't drop it at the last second because then we had teachers' union contracts. There were so many other factors. And the last thing I'll address with you, two other things, is the $20 million that was referred to earlier. It would include the assigned and unassigned fund balance. That's correct. This board adopted years and years ago, long before I was here, that we needed to carry 6% of our expenditures as carryover. And that is, it's in our unassigned fund balance. The assigned fund balance, which was referred to under that $20 million, is not surplus. That's money that's already earmarked to pay the teacher contracts, to pay PSERS, the retirement system, et cetera. So, I mean, they're good questions here, and unfortunately, on the night of the vote, I wish at the public hearing we would have come through here and we'd have sat here for 2 hours answering the questions, and you would have heard the majority of those answers. Nobody's trying to duck the answer or duck the question.
One final question, if I may. Is the school board elected or appointed?
We are. We are elected to 4-year terms by you have to be obviously a Gettysburg Area School District resident, and you get elected to a 4-year term.
Could you tell me what Gettysburg Area School District consists of? Are there other townships involved?
Yes, so there's Strabane Township, Gettysburg Borough, Franklin Township, Mount Joy Township, Cumberland Township, and I think I'm missing one, Freedom Township, sir. And Highland.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and listening to an old man complain. Thank you.
It's all right. You're very respectful.
So that concludes our public comment for this evening. So everyone, thanks for taking the time to share your comments.
So moving on to routine approvals, we are going to separate 5.2 out of necessity. So I'm going to combine 5.1, the agenda, 5.3, HR, and that's it. So may I have a motion for 5.1 and 5.3?
So moved. Second.
Question on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Brings us to 5.2, the financial report. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay.
Question? Hearing no question, Roll call. Jeremy?
Abstain, Mr. President. My wife has financial interest in one of the vendors being paid.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Alice?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Six point one, adopt general fund budget. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question or comment?
So I have a comment. I would just like to once again state for the record that the administration did bring a 0% tax increase to the board as requested, as Mr. Hassinger, President Hassinger mentioned, a few years ago. We adopted a resolution to go to expenditures and debits neutral, and I think we've done a good job getting there. And again, this is just to reaffirm that this is an increase to fund the ACTI project. At this time, we do know that there's going to be a bond issued. We don't know if it's going to be $10 million or $50 million, but as any responsible organization, we're just trying to plan for that for future budgeting. So that's the only comment I have.
Also a comment, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Al.
Just real quickly, I want to commend the administration and especially our business office and everyone involved in the whole process of putting this budget together. It's a lengthy, long process. And anyone that goes back over our meetings, I think will find that out. But just meeting contractual obligations and dealing with the inflationary situation over the past few years, for us to increase taxes less than 1% over my tenure on the board, I think it's been 7 or 8 years, is commendable. And I just want to thank the administration and the staff for being able to do that. Thank you.
Thanks. And just as a reminder, that in order to help keep that number low on a yearly basis, obviously we have people costs that rise each year due to healthcare and those kinds of things. I just want to remind everybody that a lot of the discretionary money that we have, say at the building level for supplies and those kinds of things, we've kept that number at the 2016-17 number since 2016-17. So, yeah.
And that's through COVID and inflation. And just for those that weren't able at home to see the table that was up on the screen, I mean, the budget that we're proposing, the 1% increase, if you have a $500,000 assessed value and you take advantage of the Homestead, Farmstead tax reduction, you have a net increase of $21 per year. So we have thoroughly discussed this budget and all of our options, and just, this information is available on the website, and anyone that can't find it, please email, and we will make sure that you get it.
I just have a quick comment, and I want to go back to one of the questions. I was trying to pay attention, but write the questions down to see what I could answer during this particular part of it. And there was a comment in reference to the state and some type of bill or what they were going to do, and that we're going to be beholden to the districts. What they're not telling you, and I'll tell you, is what they're doing is they're shoving a bunch of unfunded mandates at every public school. They're hammering us, and they're not giving us the money to do it, and they're telling us to go back to the taxpayers, and then they wash their hands of it and say, it's not us, it's your school board that's doing that. But I can tell you, our discretionary spending, if you look at $100 of our budget, let's just say the budget's $100, I'll bet you we get $4 out of that 100, somewhere close to that. Am I really that far off? Do we even get $10 of discretionary spending? I believe I heard that once. You can look at it. Obviously, I'm using a figure that's not correct.
It's less than 10.
But less than 10% of that, this budget, in a budget, in any given year, this board can do what it wants with. That's it.
Kenny, I asked that question last year at budget, and it was 2%.
2%. So you have a $75 million budget. You have 2% of wiggle room this board has every single year. And I apologize, I'm not going off on the politicians, but they have not helped us. They have not helped us at all, in fact. Any additional comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Roll call.
Actually, Kenny.
Oh, good. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'd like to make a quick statement. I have 5 children. 4 of them have come through this district, graduating. I've had children in this district since 1994. My last one just graduated several weeks ago. When my older children came through, it was not uncommon for the district to have boxes of crayons, pencils. When my youngest one came through, I had to provide him crayons. I had to provide him note paper. I had to provide pencils. Those are things that discretionary, we're not providing our children. This past year, as a senior, he was in the art program. I had to foot the bill for different materials because it's not in the budget. So before everybody complains, understand, our children are going without. And I'd also like to say, our buildings are not at half capacity. Next year, when our buildings open, I would invite any one of you to come in and take a look. They're not at half capacity. I've been in the buildings. I've been in every one of the buildings. They're full. And it's not going to get any better.
Well, Michelle, I concur with you. All you have to do is, when you leave here, walk back here, and you can see the pod that we had to put there because we didn't have room at James Geddes Elementary School. So wherever that got started, it's not realistic.
Yeah, we do have temporary classrooms at some of our facilities, and something that's, since we have a nice audience here, which we don't get very often, and I appreciate you guys taking your time to come out, is when you look at the capacity of a building and you look at the fire marshal's capacity rating, like we have, like one of our elementary schools is an old high school, and it has a gymnasium, an LGI, a large group instruction area. It has an area where there was like greenhouses and some agricultural stuff. And you look at total square footage, and they come up with a total capacity, for a fire marshal. And then you look at how many students are enrolled, and it's obviously going to be skewed. There's going to be less students enrolled than the capacity of the building, and they're looking at like gymnasiums and different things that capacity 24/7. So obviously those numbers are skewed, and people have liked to use that to their advantage to spin a particular narrative. But our classrooms are not half empty. That is not true. And we do a lot of, I think, planning to try and make sure that we're looking out for the taxpayer, the teachers, the students, the parents that live in the district, and the community as a whole. So it's worth sharing since we have a great audience.
Thanks, Mike. Well, what's lost is every one of us are paying the same tax. I don't have a tax break.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. Also, Dr. Perrin, correct me if I'm wrong. As a former superintendent, I'm pretty aware of where the Department of Ed, the Pennsylvania Department of Ed, gets some of the numbers that confuse the general population. But when they look at the teacher-to-student ratio, it's actually the professional-to-student ratio. So factored into that are the speech therapists. Factored into that are the reading specialists. Factored into that are instructional coaches. And I could go on and on. So that number's very deceiving when you look at 12 or 14 to 1. The average class size is very respectable across Gettysburg School District.
Yeah, we're generally on average in the 20s at the elementary. And just like you would see with any district, as you get into really more discrete coursework at the high school level, you start taking like Chem 2 AP, Physics 2 AP. Those numbers are going to be a bit smaller just because less students take them. And with the high school schedule, we call those singletons. It's like one class, it meets once. If you want that class, you have to go to it that period. So those types of classes, they kind of drive the schedule, but also would have less students at times than say like a third grade class within the district, because we try to keep those in the low 20s when we can. Yeah.
Dr. Perrin, are those numbers also skewed by GASD online and students that take advantage of hack programs?
If the course meets in the building, it should be captured. If it doesn't meet in the building, like GASD Online, those kinds of things, they would be students enrolled in the district wouldn't necessarily be in one of those classes. But they're also whenever COVID started, they started counting some of those classes. So so you're correct in that if you have 4 kids online and a teacher of record, that's obviously gonna skew it. Yeah. Thank you,
Mr. President. And I know a lot of you are new, to the area, and we welcome you, by the way. But just so you know that we are elected officials and we all have to live in the Gettysburg Area School District. So we are all taxpayers. So we're voting to, if we happen to raise our own taxes. So it's not like we're, don't live somewhere else and like, it ain't my money. It's our money as well. So just, keep that in mind when we do this.
Are there anything additional on the motion? Okay, Jeremy. All right, roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Jeremy? Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion passes. 6.2, the establishment of taxes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion? Hearing none, roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.3, the resolution for the homestead, farmstead exclusion on the taxes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.4, approval roof replacement at the maintenance shop. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Question? Hearing none, roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.5, policy 312, performance assessment of superintendent, assistant superintendent. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I just want to say I'm not fond of this. That's it.
Thank you, Michelle. Any additional? Roll call. Jeremy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6.6, approval, parking management company, LLC, vendor for Lincoln Elementary.
Mr. President,
Tim?
I'd like to add for Lincoln and the middle school to that.
So the motion on the floor right now is to edit or amend the motion of 6.6. I believe I'm going to have a vote to do that, correct?
Yes, yep.
Do we need a second?
Yeah, I just want to I want clarification because we go through this every now and then. Okay, I have a second from Al. So the motion on the floor right now is to amend or edit 6.6 to include the middle school as a part of the parking management company, LLC. Is there a question? Roll call, Mike.
Yes.
Alice.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Al.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the new motion, or the new is 6.6 to be read, approval parking management company, LLC, vendor for Lincoln Elementary and the middle school. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question on the motion on the floor.
Just, this goes until December?
It's my understanding that it's a 6-month contract.
So essentially
I-
December.
So essentially, I think what we'll do is, there's going to be some growing pains, obviously, with any new venture that we're doing. So I think that through the finance, and Tim step in, or Jeremy, I think everybody agreed 6 months was an appropriate time. We could renew if we were successful.
Yeah, I think it'll be 6 months from the time it goes into effect. So it might be a couple of weeks before the clock starts on it to get the contract worded the way that we want it and those kinds of things. But yes, 6 months from the start date to the end date.
So it could be January 1st or, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess my only comment on that I haven't already discussed, individually, is at some point we probably should figure out a way on how we're going to get information out to the public in general, because I think this is one of those topics that we could get hammered on because of misinformation.
Vanessa's here.
Well, Vanessa, I think, and I'll probably leave that to the Finance Committee, but, I mean, we hear a lot about transparency, and when you're sitting in a board meeting and you just hear a board about to vote on something, and I can promise you that 99.9% of the people in this room do not know what we're voting on, and that leads to the rumors, and it leads to the innuendos, and then we have a packed room, not talking about tonight, because we've had many packed rooms through COVID, with the information just wasn't accurate. So, any additional question on that?
Yeah,
Sorry, Alice?
Not so much a question, but just for the sake of that, attempting to help people that aren't in the room looking at this, that the goal, like that we're not currently voting on a specific rate or time or anything, that's still something that we're going to be looking into, and that the other thing to keep in mind is that, for school sanctioned events, we're not aiming to charge to park for a school event that is happening. I think that's an important state.
And that's correct, Alice. And I'm hoping, whether it's Tim, Jeremy, or Jason, when they talk with Vanessa, some of the details aren't hammered out here. What we're doing tonight is we're voting to allow this parking company to come in and put the software in place that generates revenue for the district, but also safeguards our facilities. And that's not to take away from any of the businesses in the community or from any residents that want to park and go walk their dog. I think, for me personally, it's looking out for the best interest of not just the area, but for the taxpayers as a whole that may not use that particular facility down there like other people do. Right now, to be honest with you, there's probably 50, 60 cars down there, and at any given time, vast majority are from out of state, and we have wear and tear on our property.
We have tour buses that come in and could potentially cause damage to McAdam, so yeah, there's lots of considerations.
And I would be fair to say that when we have all the final details and stuff that, we would get with you and give you the thing, because I don't want to, misquote something or give somebody a wrong figure until we actually have all that stuff hashed out. But
Vanessa, in essence, and for whoever, in essence, what we're doing is we're exploring that option with this company to regulate our parking within the middle school in Lincoln. Right now, anybody can park there for any given reason for however long they want to. So the board was recognizing that we were mandated to put that many spots in there when we built the buildings. We didn't want that many, but we were mandated. And we were going to now take advantage of the revenue that can be generated by using, and that's not parking meters, but QR scan codes. So people moving in the future that want to park there and do certain things, this company in the district will be generating revenue from that. And they've been successful in many venues. Am I accurate? I am back to any question. Any further question before we vote? I lost where I was at. Anything additional? Hearing none, roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That ends our action items. As you'll see, which is a rarity for us, there are no informational items this evening. Are there any board committee reports?
Nope. Policy committee's on summer break, so we'll get straight back in August sometime.
Al, under the committee report, I am surprised that you did not take the opportunity to go after charter here today.
I thought I'd give them a break for one night. That's until August.
That's a huge part of our budget.
Yeah.
That's a significant part of our budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Program reports, Jason.
Just that obviously it's summer. We have a lot of projects going on, not just at the two elementaries, but basically work generally gets done to every building, regardless if it's a large project or a small project. Folks work hard over the summer. I know we have a lot of people in our two elementaries that are doing the HVAC work, so I appreciate the work that our staff is doing to work around that and also work and support when needed. Thanks, Josh, and the guys that work within both maintenance, custodial, all those folks. And there will not be a board meeting in July, so I think it's August.
August 5th is our next board meeting.
August 5th is the next board meeting.
So having said that, our next board meeting is August 5th at 7 p.m. here at the administration boardroom. May I have a motion? I'm sorry.
Before you adjourn, after the last meeting, when we were leaving, there were several people from Amblebrook who were outside and were asking about our meeting. We had an executive session afterwards. But there were several questions about the agenda. And I just want to make sure that everybody here understands this agenda goes up on our website at 3 o'clock on Friday prior to our board meeting. Everything that's on here, including all of the links, everything that we voted on is on that website. So when you're sitting here and you hear us just vote and you're like, well, what are they voting on? Go look at this Friday at 3 o'clock, and then you'll know what we're doing. And that might help answer some questions for some people.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead, Mike.
And just one more thing real quick. For anyone in the audience that was not able to see that table that we put up, I can put this on the podium if you'd like to take a photograph of it or take a picture before you leave. I'll just make it available. But it's also on the website, too.
But you're here. We'll put it on the podium, and that is the actual
Yep.
tax breakdown, so you can see, based upon your assessed value of your home, you can actually see exactly what the tax rate would be, or the tax amount. Having said that, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.